I want to talk to you today about the cold weather tolerance of warm season grass. What's the grass going to do throughout the winter, what it's going to look like, what's going to kill it. Over here on the end of my driveway, I've got a handful of pots of grass that I've been maintaining over the course of the winter. Now, this right here is Kentucky bluegrass. This right here is an annual rye. That's an experimental little patch that I killed on purpose. Here in the parkway strip, I've got some thin buffalo grass. But right here in this pot, that is Bermuda grass. Looks pretty good. This right here is centipede grass. Also looks pretty good, except for this little weed right there. That's the natural way of getting rid of weeds. Centipede's looking really good. This right here is buffalo grass. Same stuff that's over here. This is just more mature. This looks dead, but it's not. There's little tiny bits of green down there. This is winter dormancy. This right here is Citra Blue, St. Augustine grass. That's another warm season grass that's frequently found here in Southern California and a lot of places down in Texas, the Gulf States, and Florida. Over here, I've got a small pot of Kikuyu grass. It looks a little bit dingy because the pot got dry a couple weeks ago. But we've got a lot of rain, so it's kind of bounced back. Where I live here in Southern California, our soil temperatures at peak of winter, which are usually in the early parts of January, bottom out somewhere around 50 degrees. And then by mid-January, they start trickling up closer to 60 and into the 65 zone. So that's in that area where a lot of warm season grass teeter on the edge of going dormant. Some of them do and some of them don't. Some of that has to do with the placement of the lawn. Like, is it in full sun? Like across the street, everything is in full sun. But here in my yard, I get a lot of shade during the winter. So all of the Bermuda grass here in my main lawn goes dormant. That's why I overseeded with annual rye. Typically, all references to warm season grass are going to say that the grasses are going to start going dormant around 55 degrees when the soil temperatures get to 55 degrees and lower. But there are nuances to that. So all of these grasses have been in the exact same climate, and I've kept them at the edge of the road down here so that they're always getting the same amount of sun as well. The only difference really is my smaller pot over there, which dries out a little bit faster than all of these others. As you can tell, there's clearly a difference in cold weather tolerance. Centipede grass has the best cold weather tolerance of all of the warm season grasses, but that's not the whole story. Centipede grass is going to stay green and growing well below 55 degrees. Now it's going to slow down as soil temperatures get below 50, but the grass is not going to go into winter dormancy. It's going to continue staying green and growing. However, if temperatures drop to freezing, a hard freeze, it will slowly start dying, just like overnight. It might take a couple days of hard freeze. It might go into a freeze and then back into warmer weather and then back into a freeze again, and it's going to die off. It can't protect itself below freezing temperatures. So if you live in a place that never freezes and you want a warm season grass that's going to stay green through the winter, centipede could be a pretty good option. Now, contrast that with buffalo grass. Buffalo grass has the best cold weather tolerance of all of the warm season grasses. But does that look good to you? This is full dormancy right here. The reason buffalo grass has the best cold weather tolerance is because it goes fully dormant and fully protects itself. Once soil temperatures get down to 55 degrees and below, the grass starts going into full protection mode. Everything browns over, looks like the color of straw. It's kind of crunchy, but this provides protection for the crowns of grass that are down deeper and the root systems which are under the soil. It'll give this insulative barrier. Buffalo grass can be grown all the way up into southern Canada. And depending on where you live up there, your average soil temperature in the middle of January could be in the single digits up there. And yet this grass still will not die. It won't be green. It will only be green during the spring and the summer, but it's not going to die over winter. Now, St. Augustine is well known to be one of the warm season grasses with the best shade tolerance. And we don't really think of the winter as a shady time of year unless you're under a tree. I'm not under a tree. You've got blue skies here. but it is a shady time of the year if you're in a shadow. So if during the winter, your lawn is shadowed by your house because the sun gets low in the sky, or because the day is just simply really, really short, your St. Augustine is most likely to continue going, continue growing, continue staying green through the entire winter, compared to something like buffalo grass or Bermuda grass. That's because it can tolerate lower levels of light, but it still wants to check out at about 55 degrees soil temperatures. So this pot, although we've teetered in the low 50s, this pot has never gone fully straw brown. It has completely stopped growing, and it does not look ready for spring quite yet. Today, our soil temperatures are 53 degrees. Although you might have this grass growing in your lawn and it will stay green in the winter because it does a little bit better under low light conditions, if the soil temperatures drop enough, it's still going to go dormant, and it's going to be more likely to die in extremely cold temperatures than Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass is going to be able to hold on much better once you get past the freezing zone. That's why sometimes you're going to find Bermuda, common Bermuda, as a weed well up into the transition zone. Even some southern cool season areas, you can find this stuff, usually not as a desirable turf. It's mostly common Bermuda infesting a lawn as a summer weed. But as soil temperatures drop into the low 20s, this root system underground can continue living on. It's going to be completely brown though. So here's another little quirk for you. That grass right there is green and thriving. It's Bermuda grass that I harvested from this lawn in early autumn. This lawn, however, all of the Bermuda grass in this lawn is still dormant. Now over here, it's starting to come out of dormancy because we're under sunlight conditions again, but it's been mostly shaded for the past few months. Where it's still fully shaded, you can see lots of dormant Bermuda grass. Look at these stolons right there. I've hacked them down, done a real Bermuda scalp on them, but there's not enough sun here for them to keep going. Bermuda grass can look fantastic through the course of the winter, places that don't get too cold, but if there's not enough sun, it's still going to go dormant. Sunlight levels, sunlight intensity makes so much of a difference. Right now, my Bermuda grass is looking better than the St. Augustine grass. I wouldn't have guessed that unless I tested it out for myself. Now here, let's take a look at this buffalo grass again. You see my pot of buffalo grass over there, which is straw colored, fully dormant. This parkway strip, albeit thin, all of the buffalo grass will fill in this area over the next few months. The actual buffalo grass here is green. It's already come out of winter dormancy. A month ago, this was dormant, brown, but right now, it's not. What's interesting about this is that this is in full sun and it's come green. That is in full sun and it hasn't come green. And what I have learned from this experiment here is this has not been scalped, whereas this has. So during the month of January, I think it was, I ran the reel mower over this at about 1/2 of an inch and I cut everything off, like all of the brown tips. I cut it down as short as I possibly could. So now when the sun comes down, it hits the soil and it warms it up and the grass has come out of dormancy. Whereas over here, all of the crowns of this grass and the stolons underneath are still being fully shaded by the dormant canopy. Now there's a handful of things trying to come out, trying to poke out, and given enough time, all of that is going to come alive again. But because buffalo grass grows so far north, such a northern latitude, its growing season is so short, I have a suspicion that this grass can emerge from dormancy very quickly once conditions are right for it. So I'm going to experiment by trimming that, just cutting it right down to the soil and just see how quickly it all comes back fully green. I have a suspicion that it's going to be ultra fast. Most people don't scalp St. Augustine grass, but I'm going to try the same thing with the St. Augustine grass just as an experiment. I might even only do half of the pot. Now here as I come over towards the Kikuyu grass. Kikuyu grass is a tropical grass. I believe it was originated, it comes from Africa. It's grown in the southern hemisphere at a good number of places, and most notably in the United States, it's grown in the Pacific Southwest, California, Arizona, Hawaii. Pretty much everywhere else across the United States, this is considered to be a noxious weed, but this is probably the most common grass type that I have in my entire town. And that's because the conditions are perfect for it here. Like, it's unstoppable. It's like cockroaches. It is a warm season grass, but it has very low temperature tolerance. So as temperatures have dropped all the way down to about 50 degrees, I believe we touched 49 degrees in early January, all of these grasses in all of my neighborhoods, I mean, I got one there and I got one there and over there. And I would say probably 80% of the lawns in my neighborhood is Kikuyu grass. They all stayed largely green all winter long. Kikuyu grass is going to continue going in those lower temperature zones, and it's going to continue growing, kind of like centipede. Now, zoysia grass that's a grass, the grass that I don't have in a pot right here to show you, but zoysia grass is going to be similar in that it's going to have a lower tolerance for it to keep staying green and growing. So for instance, Bermuda or Buffalo or St. Augustine might start going dormant at 55 degrees in the soil. Zoysia and Kikuyu are going to go down into the upper 40s. Zoysia has pretty good freeze tolerance. You can even find zoysia lawns in cool season territories. There's not very many of them. It's not common, but in a cool season territory where you're regularly every winter seeing your soil temperatures drop into the low 20s, the zoysia lawns can usually put up with that just fine. Kikuyu is not going to go that far, but you're going to have a longer green season where it does grow, because it doesn't grow places that get to the point where their grounds are frozen. Buffalo grass, looking as sad as it does look right now, this is the grass that I hope more people take on in the coming years. And that's because it takes the least amount of water of all of these grasses. It does require full sun, so this is not going to do well in shade or under a tree. But if given full sun and low water, almost no irrigation whatsoever, it will live year over year over year. So long as you can deal with a nice straw-colored lawn through the off-season, give it a good scalp at the end of winter, you should have a really low-maintenance lawn throughout the course of the year. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about buffalo grass, I've got this video right up here in the corner. There's also a couple other videos down in the description below as well. If you want to fix your lawn this year and you don't know where to start, then make sure to take a look at the link below. I have a whole free series for those of you. I will help you guys out step by step.